السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Welcome again to another edition of our fortnightly usrah. Today, inshallah, is a bit of change to the usual spiritual talk, even though some other people might claim today is a spiritual talk as well, because our religion, alhamdulillah, Islam, is an all-encompassing religion that deals with all aspects of our life. So inshallah, going forward, every now and then, we'll be coming in with some topical issues, not necessarily religious or spiritually related, just topics that we feel are important for the Muslims or for the people in general. What's been on the news recently with regards to high cost of living, even though they claim that the cost of living is actually dropping, it is dropping, but we still can't see the effect on the table. Alhamdulillah, I think my gas and electricity is reduced by a couple of pounds. So maybe that's something. Let's hope it continues to be like that. So inshallah, today our expert, Brother Idris Ayinde, I think he doesn't need any introduction. He's presented a session for as an accountant with a long experience or with the 4 big accounting firm that we know in the world. He currently works with one of them. I can't remember which one he works with. So he's an accountant par excellence, if you like. So we'll be discussing with us, inshallah, some of those halal ways of saving money, because everyone wants to save money, especially in the West that we find ourselves. You find that you're just working bills and bills, and at the end of the month, you've got nothing to save. Despite this difficulty, how can we ensure that as Muslims that we prepare for the future? Because this is definitely part of the religion as well, as we've learned from the Sirah and the Islamic sciences as well. So I think we're still waiting for Mr. Idris Ayinde to join us. Or is he with us already? Yes, he's with us. Yeah. So, but Idris, inshallah, if you're ready, let me know, and then we kickstart. So like I said, the topic to be discussed today is how to save money, especially during this period that we find ourselves. So the talk will go on for about 50 minutes to an hour, and will allow ample time for us to ask questions, inshallah, if possible, related to the topic alone. That would be appreciated, inshallah. So get your pens and paper and be ready, inshallah. I will now hand over to Brother Idris Ayinde to start his presentation. Bismillah, Akhi.
Can you hear me now? It looks like. Are you
yes,
muted?
we can.
Okay, yeah, good. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, this is fine. I was learning Shaitan Rajim, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah. Thank Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who in His infinite mercy has made us Muslim and spared our life till this moment. We pray He continue to shower His peace and blessing on the noblest of mankind, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, his companion, and the generation of Muslims till the end of time. I mean, I greet all my brothers and sisters in Islam on this program this afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, I've been asked to speak on a topic which is quite useful given the current situations around the high cost of living, as well as inflation as well. So inshallah, I would be sharing some slides. Please let me know if you can see my screen, please. Baba Majid, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So just want to be sure I'm not speaking to myself. That's fine. So inshallah, the topic is money saving strategies during inflation. Um, just a bit of disclaimer. So I would be covering a couple of points within this presentation this afternoon, some of which would include some educational information around, savings and investment. Um, just to mention clearly that this is the purpose of this session is to have an information slash an educational session. So none of whatever I'm saying this afternoon should be construed as any sort of financial investment or any sort of tax advice as well. And these whatever I'm sharing is also sort of my view only and doesn't represent the view of my employers. And then I might make reference to some companies as well during the course of this presentation. So I should also note that I do not have any um, promotional relationship with any of these companies. So most of the information that I'm sharing as well available in the public as well. So inshallah, we'll just move straight to the presentation this afternoon. So I'll be covering three separate sections. One will be on inflation itself. What exactly is inflation? A lot of people, you see in the news, inflation rate is so percent, but what exactly, does it mean for an household, for an individual? What's the implication, of those numbers that you see in the news? What does it imply for you as an individual or for you as an household? Then we'll be looking at cost savings strategies as well. So I'll just be talking briefly on an approach to cost management, which is known as the guide approach. And then lastly, we'll be looking at some savings and investments. So some other options in terms of some approach in which you can use to save as well as invest uh, during the period of inflation or generally as well, even when there is not high inflation. So inshallah, we'll just move on straight without taking much time. So what is inflation itself? It's an economic term. So it's in simple term, it's when you have the prices for goods and services, they would usually change, but in instances where, prices are broadly increased, but not just for individual items, but when you sort of, see increase in prices generally across a number of items, then, that sort of signify inflation. And I mean, just using a personal example, so I sort of do go do some bit of grocery shopping as well. And then when I do take receipt and just check prices. I think what I've seen over time is that like some specific items, which I mean, I would usually, because I buy them quite a lot, I could, have a sense of what the price is. But looking at what the price is now, some of them probably increased like more than like 40% of what the costs were about, let's say like a year or 2 years ago. So that's just an example of inflation where price continues to largely increase and increase. And the implication is that whatever it is that you can buy for example, let's say for £1 yesterday, you probably might not be able to buy the same thing today because the price has probably increased. So if what you could buy for £1 yesterday, it might probably be that you might need £1.5. £1.50 today to buy it. So that's just an example of inflation itself. And the implication is that over time, sort of it reduces the value of the currency or the value of cash which you have in hand. So so in economics term, when you when price continue to increase over time, what you find is that because of the impact of inflation, there will be some general price increase across various goods and services or across various items that are sold. And when you have that sort of like general increase in prices, it's an indication of inflation itself. And like I said earlier, what that means is that it would sort of reduce your purchasing power. And but despite that sort of fact, when there is an inflation, there are a couple of strategies that are available to cope with that sort of situation. One of them key being sort of working through your income and expenses, trying to sort of understand what are like the various sources of income which you have, and then the various sources of your expenses, and then try and make an estimate of what you spend monthly, what you earn monthly, what you incur monthly as expense, and then find a means of saving or investing the balance. The budgeting is quite important. So regardless of whether there is inflation or not, you would need to sort of prepare some bit of budget to understand how you spend on a regular basis. But today I'll be focusing more on the last two strategies, which is the cost saving strategies, and then how you can maximize your return on your investment or savings, rather than keeping cash. Because during period of inflation, the sort of the cash which you think you are saving or you're keeping in your bank account is actually losing value by the day. And the only way you can sort of ensure that the value on that money still remain is to invest or to get some bit of return by when saving those funds that you keep in your account. So I would move on to the first approach, which is the cost saving approach. And then to walk through this approach, I would be touching on a concept known as the guide approach. The guide approach is essentially, when there are rising prices, definitely, it sort of puts some squeeze on household finances. And then one of those approach that you can use is to ensure that you would be able to manage your cost more appropriately. So managing your cost more appropriately means you need to look at what are like the various major items that sort of that takes part of the your regular expense, and this is sort of summarized under these 5 letters. So G mean groceries, utilities, insurance, debt, and then energy as well. So how do you sort of manage your cost around these 5 items would be crucial in terms of how you can sort of navigate through an inflationary period, which we are currently in at the moment. I should know that, depending on your personal situations or circumstances, some of these might not be applicable to everybody. But just to give a bit of background as to, what is possible, what are the cost saving strategies, under each of these ones that might be applicable across board. So I will start off with the first one, which is, this is a summary of the 5 anyway, so I'll just start with the first one. And that's around groceries. So yeah, I mean, one of the ways in which you could potentially save some costs during this period of inflation is to doing groceries sort of as much as possible, the ones that is possible to sort of do bulk buying. Usually when things are sort of purchased in large quantity in bulk, as well, what that means is that you might save costs rather than buying items individually on each occasion. So part of those ways in which you can save costs is essentially buying buying items in bulk. Then secondly is around own brands and unbranded items. So I mean, there's something called brand loyalty where people sort of stick to a specific brand, but in some instances, I think period of inflation sort of warrants, sort of making some bit of concession. So concession in the sense that, there are some items in which, you could actually, get quality, maybe not generally branded, or maybe like an household brand name for the sort of the same sort of quality, and then for the for a lesser price, for example. So and this is something which it's applicable across a number of items. So part of what you could do as part of saving strategies for groceries is to you could get some of these maybe not so popular brand as well, as long as the quality is there as well compared to like maybe the very much popular brand. Because what is inherent in the popular brand is part of their costing also include some cost for their brand as well. So if you could get something quite similar, with similar quality with a lesser price, then that's just one option that you can consider as well. Then you might also want to look at what are some of those items where you probably use less of them, but you use them quite often. And what you would find is that you need to sort of find a way around them these sort of items. So in some instances, it means that you can probably just cut them, or you get them more in higher quantity, and then find a means of saving them for when you would need them, or maybe getting like some delivery of some of these items, rather than going to get each of these items one after the other. There are a couple of for groceries, I mean, in the UK particularly, you probably have lots of stores and the like, such that if you probably frequent some of these stores, there would usually be like some discounts and savings or some offers as well, which you could make um, advantage of as well. So that's just one of the bits which to take cognizance of. And then lastly is for people that probably do like regular shopping as well, I think in this sort of moment as well, it's quite important to have a bit of some very good habits around when doing massive shopping as well. And one of those things is, for example, having like a specific shopping list. Yeah, I think what I find useful about this is that when you have that sort of list, even if it's not just for groceries, but like generally, if you're going to get something or shopping like that, having a list to an extent sort of put a bit of constraint on you as to the level at which you can window shop for items which are probably not needed but might have caught your attention during that process. But sticking to your list always sort of help as well. But notwithstanding, it doesn't mean you can't maybe see one or two items to add. But I think having a shopping list would go in a long way to keep you disciplined, and then you go into the store, focus on what you need to get them, and then leave. So you might be tempted by like some deals in which you see them, and then they appear so nice or nice to have, but it might necessarily not be needed at that point in time. So you try and avoid those type of things as well. Try and avoid distractions. So distractions being that particularly those that probably go to shop with kids as well. I think there's a research that says, there's this special power by kids where when they go into shopping with you, they add like some items, and then the researchers are on average, when you take kids for shopping, they probably add an average of like 16 pounds worth of items to the basket, which wasn't originally planned for before. So that's just one thing to watch out. I'm not saying you shouldn't take the kids out for shopping, but just resist the pester power as well of providing costs to the shopping. And lastly, just I mean, as Muslim as well, we shouldn't waste items. So as much as possible, where there are leftovers of items from shopping, you could either use them, or freeze them and then use them at some other time. I'll just move quickly to utilities as well, which is the U from the guide. So utilities being, for example, mobile phones. Oftentimes you probably see like some mails or like in the post for some of these telecoms company asking you to come to buy new phones, and then they tell you pay like a certain amount for over 4 years. But the point is, as tempting as it could be, if it's not absolutely required, you probably shouldn't bother. Because the fact is, for example, those that probably use like an iPhone, if you should get an iPhone in like maybe 6 to 9 months from when you probably get it, there's a new iPhone. So if you probably just try and sort of, you're so fixated about the new brand of iPhone before you probably just say Jack, the next new iPhone is there again, and then just continue the cycle. So some SIM only plans might help, where you can get your phone maybe cheaper outrightly in some instances, and then maybe like some SIM only contract where you could pay lesser per month and just have to use data and telephone calls as well. Rather than being locked in massive contracts where you pay quite a lot, because in such contracts with the telecom providers as well. Another aspect is like around broadband as well. There was a day I had to print like a broadband bill at a shop, and then as I was printing, the person saying the bill was sort of saw like the speed of the internet that I get, and then the price that I was paying for the broadband. And then the person was shocked that how did I get the price? I said, well, I had to negotiate. So there's one thing which I do, which is like on my broadband or like across like various contracts as well, is I don't auto renew. Like, you probably have like most times you have like a contract of say 12 months or 18 months. And what happens is maybe at the end of the contract, they tell you it's going to increase, and then, you like, I don't like the stress. So you just leave the contract to go on rolling. I think I've done that in the past with some other items, but what I found out is that each year at each renewal, they sort of just increase the price, because you're not worrying, and then they continue increasing the price. But at some point, what I just do is for all like the various utilities, particularly the ones on contract, you peg a date for, try and put in diary the days when some of these bills or broadband are expiring. Now, an implication of that is that it maybe like a month or few weeks before the expiry, I just probably go on some of these price comparison website. It probably just take me about less than an hour across like various utilities that I use, and less than an hour in every 12 or 18-month period. So I don't think that's quite a lot to save some cash on the utility. So I go to the price comparison website. I think I've listed them here under insurance. Then you probably put some information around exactly what you need. And then you would, see the various options that are available to you. I think there was a point where I had like a provider, and then they told me this is the price I was going to pay. And then I went to the price comparison website. I got like a new offer lesser than what my current provider was asking for. And then I went to my current provider and said, well, I think I'm leaving you guys. I've gotten like an offer from someone. And then they said, well, what's the price? And I told them this is the price. Okay. They went lower than what the other provider was saying. And because I had probably started off with the other guys, I think I've asked them to start. And then I went back, and then they said, well, I shouldn't leave, but they just sort of manufacture like another discount. Ultimately, I think eventually I was paying like 50% of like the cost of what I should have paid monthly previously. And then I went for the lower one because one, it's of even more higher quality, and then with lower prices. My current provider couldn't match that price, and then well, the best company with the best price and quality won, and then that's how I just moved on. So I think I've seen that across a couple of utilities as well, where I probably go online, get a new quote for a new contract, and then speak with my current provider. In some instances, the current provider would match the price, or in some instances they would match the price and maybe with more additional benefit, or they probably match the price and I just keep it with them. So depending on which option it is for. So that's just something to keep in mind, but not just for broadband, but across a couple of utilities as well. Particularly where you have contract renewal. So this is just one way which you can reduce cost overall as well. Quite similar, I think I mentioned. So there was a point like I think there was a car insurance as well, something quite similar where the same provider sort of they provided like the annual bill, and then when I saw it, I think I went to like another provider as well, just one of these price comparison website as well, and then I saw a quote ultimately, I think the insurance cost for the year, they sort of they initially reduced it by like I think like £200, and then I said, well, I've got something lesser, and then they manufactured like some funny discount from somewhere, and the cost was reduced like by like £400. So I was now wondering, well, I mean, if I hadn't like spoken out and asked you guys, I mean, you guys would probably have charged me £400 more. Meanwhile, you could actually charge me lesser if I just sat down and let the contract auto renew. So utilities or some bit around cancel tax, or if eligible as well. So it might just be options to explore. And insurance, right? So there are a couple of items where when you buy them, particularly household items, one of the ways in which you could save costs is some of them comes with warranty. So if you could get product with warranty, it makes more sense, because ultimately if you have like let's say like 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year warranty, as long as it's a manufacturing default with that product without like its intentional damage, you could always return back those items and then get a new one. Now I remember there was a device, I can't remember what exactly it was, and it had an issue, and then it was just 3 weeks to the end of the warranty, but I was sort of like delaying, and then like a day before the warranty actually expired, I took it into store, and then I just got a new one. I think they sort of checked like the date when the warranty expired. It was like, I think the warranty was expiring on that day. So luckily I was able to like get a new product. So, if it wasn't like the product has like a warranty, the implication is that you'll have to churn out a new cost to get that product. And for some products, they probably, you might buy something of like £200, 300 or £400, and then they tell you to like maybe pay an insurance of like maybe £10, £15, depending on what the product is. More like an extended sort of product warranty. Maybe the product has like 1 year warranty, and then they might ask you to pay something very little to extend it for like 3 years. It always makes sense to do that kind of stuff, because ultimately you might look at, well, it's a little bit expensive, but in the long run, it pays, because ultimately if there's any sort of product defect within that period, rather than buying something entirely new, you just sort of, we can leverage on those sort of like protections that comes with the product to save costs as well. Then lastly is things around like car or home or all the insurance that might be applicable. You could sort of use some of this price comparison website to just check for cost, and then sort of compare prices. Some of them you could get like some discount for signing on new, or get like some free vouchers that would almost sort of cover like the cost that you're paying. So I think I listed a couple of those websites here, which are like quite popular. There's Money Supermarket, Compare the Market, Go Compare, and the likes. In fact, I think the amazing thing about some of these websites is if you should probably create some accounts with them and enter like the dates for maybe for some of the contracts, you automatically just get like some prompt. So for example, when maybe my insurance or broadband is due, I actually get like a prompt that, oh, it's almost time for a renewal. So you just go there and check. So which makes it like quite easy and stress-free. You don't have to like maybe keep too many dates in mind. You probably get some of these automatic reminders as long as you probably read your email as well. Then around debt as well. So during this period, I think during my initial explanation, I gave an example that inflation itself, the impact of inflation is that the £1 that you have yesterday would not be sufficient to buy the same item today. Now the same implication is that the sort of the £1 which you probably have today would be worth more than the £1 which you would have tomorrow. Now what that means is that if you have opportunity where you can defer payment on items as much as possible, defer them even if you have the cash. But it's one of those ways to sort of cost saving strategy as well, to manage things rather than pay up everything upfront. You could defer some items. For example, when you buy some items online, you would have like some interest-free period, things like Klarna on Amazon or PayPal, where you can maybe pay items for like 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, which are interest-free. in some instance. So, utilizing this also helps, because ultimately, rather than pay those entire money, which you have, that gives you more purchasing power now, just delay it to the future, where in which case, whatever you're paying then has less purchasing power, and you can use your cash now when it has more purchasing power than, paying everything exactly now. And then debt as well. There's something called snowball method, where if you probably have like a couple of debts, sort of trying to, settle up the smaller ones quicker, and then before you probably look at the bigger one. Then you could consider debt consolidation with salary finance. So some employer actually provide like interest-free loans up to a certain amount, and it depends. So if you rather than, if we could maybe get some of those facilities as well. The implication is that, rather than maybe getting finances as well, you could leverage on, where there are like salary finance, where your employer essentially just take it from your salary. And in some instances, some of these loans are interest free as well. I think based on HMRC tax law, I think employers can give up to a certain threshold of loan to their employees, interest free. So where this is applicable, that might be something to consider. I think I've mentioned things around like some 0% card balance transfer. These are instances for people that sort of make use of credit card as well, as long as it doesn't sort of involve interest payment. If payment are settled frequently or like fully on a monthly basis, then that sort of avoids interest. And then there are instances where you could have opportunity of moving balances to some cards interest free for a long period of time. So they sort of call them like balance transfer card as well. So in that instance, you could spread costs of items over a period of time, as well as interest free as well. And lastly is around energy. So I know quite recently, because of the various issues around energy, it's probably not worth sort of changing energy supplier, but notwithstanding, you could always speak with your energy provider as to, if they could, that they always have like some bit of rates that might be cheaper. For example, if you're paying like direct debits, it might be cheaper than, paying your bills in full on a monthly basis. So it depends on, what's available. So previously, you might be able to use some of the price comparison websites to sort of compare energy bills and rates, and then see if it makes sense for you to switch. There are some sort of schemes where you could get some free or some subsidized home energy improvement plan. I mean, if eligible, there are some grants for maybe installing like solar energy or and the likes at home. And then you could get some grant from the government as well. So that might just be one way. So one way you would improve your home with those energy savings sort of devices, as well as getting the grant, and then subsequently the cost of your energy would also increase. There's something called economy 7 or economy 10 meters. I mean, if available in your area, essentially these sort of meters, they give you two different rates at two different time of the day. So essentially, it means the time when you spend more energy, you can maybe you probably have like 7 or 10 hours of peak hours. What that means is that during the period where you are doing those off-peak period, the energy provider charges you way less than the standard price that they charge. Now, what that means is that you could sort of arrange your utilization of your energy around that period. For example, maybe using items that are power consuming, like maybe things like the washing machine, the dishwashers, or maybe some items, during that period, so that you probably incur less cost as well. So, that might be something to consider. But I think a bit of warning here is that if you're probably using this type of meter, because you have very cheap rate for the off-peak period and a little bit expensive rate for the peak period, you should sort of assess your situation, to determine whether you would be consuming more energy, during those off-peak period. I think generally it's recommended if you could consume about 40% of your energy during that period, then it makes more sense, right? So that might just be something to consider as well. So I would just so that's just around the cost saving strategy using like the guide approach. I would move on quickly to savings and investment and just consider some halal option. So there are a number of savings and investment strategies that that can be utilized. Okay, sorry. Okay, so the number of savings or investment strategies that can be utilized to hedge against inflation. There are quite a number of them. So, but I've just limited my presentation to just about five items. One of them is around investment in Sharia compliant stocks and exchange traded funds, fixed income or sukuk, Islamic bond, Islamic savings accounts, investment in commodities such as gold and agri product, and then real estate investment as well. So I'll just touch on each of these one briefly in subsequent slide. Right, so stock and shares. So I think a lot of us will probably be familiar with it, but essentially when you mention stock or shares is when you invest in companies, and it's quite important that when you invest in stock, it sort of gives you ownership of that company. Now, what that means is that because it gives you ownership in the company, as a Muslim, essentially, whatever sort of financing you put in that company means you are also supporting the cost of that company to a large extent. So if you should invest, for example, your money in a company that manufactures alcohol, for example, it means you are sort of supporting the propagation of alcohol consumptions and the rest applicable to some other sort of like general things which would it's prohibited as Muslim. So I think the first important thing is whatever company that you would be investing in, it's important to ensure that the business that entity conducts is acceptable under the Islamic law. I mean, what the business is engaging in is not something that is haram or it's forbidden according to the Islamic law. And I give an example of an alcohol company, for example. So if you're investing in stock as well, you need to ensure that sort of the returns which you are getting is not interest, but it could be dividends, which is you're sharing in the profit of the company. So probably have a couple of stocks where at the end of the day you get like dividends. So dividends is when the company is sharing part of the profit that they've made in that year. So these are like fundamental things to just take note for the purpose of investing in stock or shares. And when the so how do you sort of do some screening to sort of determine what sort of company that you can invest in? So, and I think the first one, which I've mentioned earlier, is the business should not be an haram business, in the sense that what they should be in should be halal. Maybe, for example, maybe a company manufacturing household items like food, like electronics, or for example, cars, or things that are like for general consumptions, which are like halal for us as Muslim, and it's not engaging in things that are halal. So there are a couple of sort of Sharia screening criteria here, which has been debated on by by various Islamic scholars, but generally you would find some of these key criteria as one of the things you could use in screening out stocks or shares that are to determine which of them would be eligible for you to invest in as Muslims. So I'll just quickly move on to the next one. So ETFs or fixed income. So ETF is called the exchange traded fund. So essentially, rather than investing in just one company. For example, I can decide I want to invest in just, for example, just you can just decide you want to invest in a company. For example, let me just say Apple, for example, and that's just one company. But you can decide, rather than put all your risk into one entity, you can decide you want to invest in in a lot of companies at the same time. So one of the ways in which you can, have what we call investment exposures to a lot of company at the same time is investment in an ETF. So an ETF is like a basket. So a basket where, for example, if I have a technology company basket, that basket would include, stocks that are in the technology sector and are halal. So you just put maybe like 3 companies in that basket. So you could have food basket, for example. It means in a company in that basket will be companies that manufactures food. So rather than just one company, you'd have more than one company. And then you have like various baskets like that. So each of these baskets, as you call it, which includes a number of companies, is known as an ETF, an exchange traded funds, because it includes like more than one entity. And then there are a couple of some Sharia compliant sort of ETFs which are sort of available across like various markets, like in the US and in the UK as well. And then if you should maybe check out with some of these companies that support with investment management as well in the UK, and sort of request for Sharia compliant ETF options. That there are a couple of them which you might see. So I've just listed some of these examples here. Obviously, like I said earlier, it's not an investment advice to invest in all these ones, but this is just to share some bit of examples of some of the ones that are available out there as well. Just on fixed income as well. So some of these ETFs are more like a sukuk, where they have like a combination of an existing sukuk inside one basket, which can be invested in as well. The other forms of investment, I've mentioned real estate and mentioned savings accounts. So in terms of real estate, so how do you sort of can get involved in real estate? And one of these is to sort of engage in some DIY project. This will be like a bit of hands-on, where you might probably look out for properties to buy. In some instances, collaborate with others to buy properties. Some instances you can refurbish and then you can sell as well. So it's just one way in which you can invest as well. There's some property investment company. I think this is a little bit easier in the sense that you sort of you go to some of these companies, their platform, you invest, and then they use the money. For example, you might go to the platform. One of those companies, for example, is you. That's where when you go to their website, you would see they have like maybe like a project. A project can be a house somewhere in the UK. Let's say the house is 300K, and then they want people to invest in that house. So you might have like various contributions. Someone might, you can bring 5K, 10K, 20K, depending on what you can afford. And then they pull all those funds together. And pulling all those funds together means at the end, you'll be able to accumulate up to that 300K. And then you can use it to maybe buy the house. In some instances, they buy and then they sell. So what that means is that you get like your money and then the return, which will be the profit that has been, made on that property that was bought and sold, and then the share of the profit will be based on what has been contributed. In some instances, it will be that you buy a property, and in that property they would be renting that property out. So what that means is that all the people that have contributed the fund to buy that property would be getting the rental yield, which is like the rental income. So for example, if a house was bought for 300K and then there's like 2K monthly rent, so the 2K, maybe after all expenses, they will share it across everyone that has invested in that property. So that's just an example of how that works. So there could be like property funds as well, which is REIT. So REIT is quite similar to stock, where it's essentially a company that real estate investment trust. So essentially you invest in company, and then that company sort of invest in properties as well. So the difference between this and property investment companies, for property investment company, it's likely going to be like a specific project. But like property fund is similar to stock as well, where you just invest and then the REIT company would now invest in a couple of properties, and then you get returns based on the rental income from all the properties or the property acquisition for that property as well. And then lastly could be like a development project where you could as well where like a massive company might be sort of developing some houses, and then they could ask for investors where you contribute money and then they develop the property, and then at the end of development they could sell off the property, and then you get your money plus share of profit as well, which is based on how the sale of this property. Now, when investing in some of these projects, it's quite important that you as well, you try and read the terms of the various arrangements to ensure that it's not like an interest scheme. So there are some properties of investment where you pay and then the returns is largely like a fixed interest kind of. So it's something to be conscious of as well. Then lastly is around savings as well. So in terms of how can you save? So in terms of how you can save, essentially it's there are a couple of options available in the UK where you can open like sort of like some savings accounts with like various products, and then at the end of the period you get like some profit share as well. So depending on how much you had contributed and for how long you had keep the duration of the product as well. So a couple of these banks in the UK where they are like specific savings products where, for example, like Gatehouse Bank, they have like a couple of products where you can open the savings account, choose like your product and the duration which you want, and then once it's invested at the end of the period, they would pay a share of profit. So usually, because the share of profit, they would usually give you like a range of what you expect, but in most instances you get slightly more than the range that has been promised, and then in some instances it could be lesser. But I mean, because what has been you've been informed originally is an estimate based on what they would expect the profit that the fund from the saving is invested in, and using that sort of model, you get a share of the profit at the end of that savings period. So same thing is applicable to like the likes of Ariane Bank or like this AGBL, sort of like where they have like some Sharia savings account. It's just sort of an avenue which you save as well, and then at the end of the period, you get some returns or profit on the amount that has been saved as well. I think one bit which is probably not on the slide, but I just need to mention as well is like a major consideration, particularly in the UK, is when saving or investing, is to sort of consider particularly options that are available for you that would sort of also protect against tax as well. And a major one is sort of having what is called an ISA account. An ISA is an individual savings account, and with an ISA account in a year, as an individual, an adult, you have up until £20,000 in a year. With £20,000 in a year, whatever sort of investment that is invested in an ISA account up until 20,000 in a year, whatever returns or profit share you get on that investment or appreciation on that sort of investment, it will be exempted from tax as long as it's wrapped within an ISA account. And it means for an individual, you have £20,000 annually to wrap in an ISA account, which means that whatever comes from that sort of fund or investment or savings, as the case might be, would be exempted from investment. Now, some might say, well, I don't have like much of financial knowledge and the likes. I think generally, to be able to sort of navigate this situation or this period of inflation or high cost of living, I think everybody practically needs to be an accountant of themselves or a financial advisor of themselves, because ultimately you need to be able to you yourself manage your finances. And to start with, I think the key thing is having that financial literacy. I mean, nobody is really expected to be, entirely sort of know like everything, but you need to have some bit of idea as well, because ultimately what that means is that even if someone is advising you, that bit of background knowledge would be able to sort of make an informed decision as to whether you think what you've been advised works for you or not. And some bit of that lot of resources, online books as well, that as an individual you can buy as well. I think there was a book which I saw quite recently. I think Alal Investor for starters or for beginners or something. I think there's also this popular website as well in the UK. It's not Islamic Finance Guru. I think there's some couple of guys where they have like a website where they provide a lot of information around how you could navigate investing and saving, particularly in the UK, and looking at various halal options as well. So it's quite a lot of resources on the website. I think that you should read as well. So at leisure, these are kind of the stuff in which you can just try and read up as well, just to get informed as well. Then lastly, there are a couple of investment outlets in which you can sort of invest in as well. Some of them, they probably provide like some free apps where you could trade as well. I think, for example, if you're sure of sort of like stock in which you want to invest in, there are a couple of 2 or 3 apps that I think I can mention that in the UK you can essentially just use them, or you can even have an ISA account with them as well, and then just buy some of those things, and then you can invest. I always advise people generally is investing is a personal sort of is a personal choice, as well as your investment circumstance also, it's different from other people. Now there's sort of the general mentality is investment, so you probably need to sort of differentiate between investment and savings, because oftentimes investment is always like for a longer period of time, and then savings is always like maybe something quite short. Maybe you're trying to save to get to a target, to achieve something. So you need to be able to differentiate between whether you want to save or whether you want to invest. And for investment, generally, it's more longer term looking. So that's why in that instance, you can afford to invest in items which might be a little bit risky. For example, investing in stock is not that so. It's risky because the prices of stock goes up and down, right? But it depends on what is your motive. If you save it for longer time and then and like, so generally it's always advised that you probably should have like something more like an emergency fund, as if you can, and then which might be maybe kept in like a savings, which might be generating a return, and then maybe anything after that can be sort of be put like in longer term investment, like maybe real estate or in stocks where you can afford to leave it for like 3, 4, 5 years. You just know you have that investment, such that in the temporary form where the price should go down, you shouldn't worry, because I've seen instances where I've had like some chats with a number of people, and they're, oh, I want to invest. Okay, I want to invest in stock, and there's okay, fine, it's good, but these are the options in which you can do. And then if we invest, and like maybe like after a week, the price of the stock goes down, and then people start calling me and say, well, this price is going down. I was like, well, you need to be certain as to what is your plan as well. So if your plan is longer time, then that's fine. But if your plan is shorter time, maybe stock is probably not for you. You probably want to go to less risky stuff, like maybe just a savings account, and then you get profit on your return. But the point is, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. So if your plan is longer time, then you can afford to go for like some risky stuff. And then because ultimately over time it's the everything sort of normalizes. For example, probably have like there's a particular stock in my personal portfolio where at some point I think it went down by like 30%. I saw it, but I did not actually bother, because the point is that I don't sort of want to sort of use the fund at this point in time, and the goal is a longer term goal. Now, maybe like 6 months down the line, the 30% loss has actually reversed, and then I think it's now in positive range. So what would have happened is that if I had panic at the point when the stock went up by 30% and withdraw the fund, it means I've lost like 30% of whatever I'd invested. But the point is, what's the need of taking out the fund at that point in time? Because one, I don't need it, but I only just panic because it went down by 30%. But because in my case, my plan, my longer term goal is to just keep it there for a longer time, and then I left it there, and then ultimately went back to normal. So as individuals, we're quite different. So you need to sort of examine, what's your risk tolerance level, what you can do. But I think generally you should find a means of balance between, saving and investing, rather than, you don't want to take any risk at all, and then you keep your money in the bank. But the implication is keeping the money in the bank means, with inflation, the purchasing power of your fund is reducing. So striking a balance will be maybe, depending on your risk appetite, you can just go for maybe something with a low risk. I think taking some bit of risk is still better than, not taking anything at all, and then your purchasing power keep reducing. So I think inshallah I would be stopping there for now, and then if we have questions, I think this is the time for question. Looking at my time, and I think I've just gone over 50 minutes, which I think is fine.
Jazakumullah khairan, Brother Idris Ayinde, for that very practical ways of saving money. I'm sure we've all learned something. We could relate with some of those examples that Brother Idris gave as well. So this is an opportunity for us to have comments and questions. And there are, the chat area has been very active since the beginning of your session. I don't know if you've been monitoring as well on the side. And one of the points that was raised on there, which I think is key, was the issue of rent. Which is the key one. The rent is going up. Are there any available ways of, saving on rent? I guess that would be the first question, inshallah, for you. So before we go on to that though, so yeah, like I said, you can ask a question by raising your hands, or you type your question in the chat area. For those on YouTube as well, type your question in the chat area. We allow comment as well. Just make your question very brief, one at a time if possible. And your comment as well, make it very brief, within 30 seconds, to a minute, inshallah. So inshallah, if you could have the first question, answer the question.
Yes, I think there's a question here which stops is not even on the list. And I think someone has actually done a good job. It's like I feel I've actually answered that. Is a fixed cost unlike the others, and that's actually true. So on my list, I didn't include rent because for a couple of people, rent is fixed. You probably have like a fixed month, 12 months or 6 month contract. So it's hardly ever easy to reduce rent, except you want to downscale. Maybe you rent a 4-bed apartment and you're probably just using 2, and then maybe get like a 2-bed apartment, and then you can reduce your rent in the long run. But
that's if you're able to even get that downgrade as well.
Yeah,
houses these days.
So I think that's just that bit. I think you've also mentioned where people could actually check if they're eligible for council tax support as well. So I think if some people are eligible to get like council tax support, which could be like get like some cheap housing as well. There are a lot of councils building new houses. I was just walking by an area quite recently and I saw like some very nice houses, and it's council funded and maybe like £184 per week. So for people that are eligible, you could speak to your council, and then you can get some access to property, and then pay even lesser rent as well.
The question on ISA, I don't know. I didn't understand it myself. I guess you understood what you meant.
Okay, yeah. So can you shed more light on Lisa? Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier that each individual adult, you have £20,000 per annum to keep in an ISA account. An ISA is an individual savings account. So it means from whatever you're making in a year, you can invest or save £20,000, and whatever returns on that £20,000, be it in savings account where you get profit, be it in stocks where the price appreciates or where you get dividends, will be exempted from tax. Now, the government has a separate scheme known as Lifetime ISA. It's called LISA. Now, with the Lifetime ISA, I think if you are over 18, and I think there's a restriction, I don't know if it's 40 or 50 years, but if you're between 18 and maybe 40 or 50 years, you are eligible to open a Lifetime ISA account. Now, the Lifetime ISA account is out of your £20,000 in a year, the government allows you to save £4,000 in a Lifetime ISA account. Thank you. Someone said 18 to 40, yeah. So the government allows you to save £4,000 in a Lifetime ISA account. Now, when you save £4,000 in a year, now whatever amount you save in a year, the government gives an automatic bonus of 25%. So it's a means of encouraging people to subscribe to the Lifetime ISA, where you subscribe and then the government gives a bonus of 25%. So if you save 1,000, you get the bonus of £250. If you save 4,000, it means you will get a full bonus of £1,000. So the maximum you can save into a Lifetime ISA account in a year is £4,000, and the maximum bonus is £1,000, being 25%. Now, when you have a Lifetime ISA account, the money you've just contributed and the bonus is just yours. It just sits down there without anything happening to it. Now, you can either go for a cash Lifetime ISA or a stocks and share Lifetime ISA. What that means is that whatever money you put in, which is a 4K plus the government bonus of 1K, you can now decide whether you want to now take the entire 5K and save it where you get returns, or you invest it in stocks and share where the price would also increase or appreciate as time goes on. Now, but the one thing about the Lifetime ISA account is you, as an individual, you cannot access your Lifetime ISA savings except you're buying your first house in the UK, or you have reached the age of retirement. So it means that whatever you have in the account is locked in to either buy your first house in the UK or at retirement. Although you can withdraw the money, but I think you would pay some penalty, which would ultimately means you lose whatever bonus that have been given to you. So it's sort of a way to discourage people from withdrawing from a Lifetime ISA account. So, but in simple terms, you can, once you've contributed what you need, you can get the government bonus, which you can use as part of your deposit for your first house, or you can withdraw it much later on retirement.
I don't know if there are any further questions. I can't see any hands up. Have you been sent any questions directly to yourself?
No. Okay, so I think I mentioned the name of a book which during my course of my lecture. So it's Halal Investment for Beginners, and I think a brother has actually done a good job of sharing it. So it's on Amazon, and it's written by Ibrahim Khan and Mohsin Patel from the IFG group. So it's a very good book. So Halal Investing for Beginners, at least, if not for anything, you can just start your journey of reading and knowing about how to invest as well. Website for Lisa. Lisa is there are a couple of providers as well. So you can just check for the ones that might be suitable. There are a couple of them online as well. And like I said, you need to assess your situations quite carefully before opening a Lifetime ISA account. One around being the age, as well as if you would have to withdraw it or not.
Now, Dr. Kasalako, please go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry, maybe before I move on, so someone is asking whether the 25% is compounded or is Lisa Islamic. So like I said, the 25% is not an interest. So it's a government bonus. So, and the way it works, because the point is that if it's an interest, what you would expect is that every year you should get an additional maybe interest on the money. So it's a one-off. So once you invest, is an incentive. I think it's quite similar to there was a point when government do sort of have like they do from time to time have some schemes where they bring it up to encourage people to maybe save money to buy houses and the likes. I think this lifetime ISA is just one of them. So where you save money, the government, as a means of encouraging, gives you something in return. So this is just one of those scheme as well. So once you contribute the 4K in a year and you get the government bonus, that's the end of it. In the following year, for you to get another government bonus, you need to put in another £4,000. Know that you get 25% annually because it's not an interest that is paid. I think if you're doing a lifetime ISA, as long as if you're doing like cash, for example, it's not the such where you get interest on it, then that's fine. I'm not quite sure. I think a lot of the providers, they probably have interest on it. So in some instances, maybe the closest to the best option you could is still, and depending on the timeline, maybe do the stocks one where you can invest. I mean, if the plan is for a longer time, if you're probably thinking of using the money to buy a house in more than 2 years time, then you can probably do like a stocks where you do stocks and there's no interest. Whatever fund you have there plus the government bonus is invested in shares, which is fine as long as it's invested in shares that are halal, and then you can withdraw your money. But if you're probably considering sort of withdrawing the money in the next 2 years, maybe you're thinking of buying your house in the next 2 years, but you want to take the advantage of it, then you could do cash. But just ensure that at the point when you're withdrawing your money from the lifetime ISA, you only withdraw just your contribution and then the plus the 25% bonus which will be given by government. So whatever sort of interest accrued on it, you can just leave it down in the account and just ignore it as well. I hope that answers the question.
So I'm guessing what you were trying to say is the Lisa account is just treat it the same way you treat a conventional account. You leave the interest and take your money from it. All right. Yeah. Obviously, the 25% would have incurred interest as well. So you have to calculate
exactly. So which essentially, if you're doing the full contribution per annum, it means you probably have 5,000 of your money each year. Your 4,000 plus the government bonus. So and depending on the number of years which you've contributed, you can do it. And one thing I always advise is like if there are couples, you could have 2 separate ISA accounts. So I mean, if the income of the family is enough to, get up to £8,000 in a year, so it means as a family you can get a government bonus of £2,000. So which is each person would get 1,000 and the other person gets 1,000. And then one other thing is that you can't withdraw the money from the lifetime ISA account until 12 months after you've opened the account. So you can open the account now, maybe just put like £10 or £5 or whatever the minimum amount is, put it there. That date starts as the date in which you open the account. Now, in terms of the timing in which you can put money into the account, it starts from April till the end of March the following year, which is the usual government tax year. So you are only allowed to put the 4K within April to March. So if you put the 4K within April to March, you get your bonus. And then the next year, you get your bonus. Now, the trick is that even there's a restriction of 12 months, depending on the timing, you could time the opening of your lifetime ICA account. You can probably have it open for a period of 14 months, and then you can get tax benefit of up to 3 years. And I'll give an example. If you open your lifetime ISA, let's say February, for example, and then you put your 4K in February, you would get the 1,000 bonus for that tax year. And then let's say by April of the following year or March or May of the following year, you put another 4K, you will get the benefit for that second tax year. And then by the following year, if you put something by, let's say, April of the following year, that's like the beginning of a new tax year, you get another bonus. So if you look at like February of one year to like April of the following year, it will cover like 3 tax years because there's a full 12 months and then there's the end of one tax year and there's the beginning of another tax year in between that period as well. So just something to take cognizance of as well.
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I like this new knowledge for I don't know about you. So yeah, Dr. Salako, if you go ahead and ask a question now, please.
I think probably they must have talked about it, but I'm so sorry that I missed it. May Allah forgive me and us. And thank you very much for a very, very good talk. I think quickly, my question is regarding the ISA. That's my question. How do we guarantee that the money that we are saving is not invested in a harm product? Is there any hint on how which ISA and who to go with? Because is it like it's open for government to use it for anything they want? That's the question. On probably you must have talked about that, but I missed it from the
Okay, I'll just go
internet.
through. So, I mean, I've talked of ISA, and there's a subset of ISA, which is this lifetime ISA, which I've mentioned. But aside from this lifetime ISA, the general ISA means in a year you have £20,000. Now, what you can, with the £20,000 you have, you can open ISA with various entities. Some of them, the conventional banks, but for those ones, a lot of them deals with interest. But there are like some specific providers where they sort of have like maybe Sharia compliance product in which you can invest in. And a good example, which I'm aware of, is Wide Invest, where they sort of have like an ISA where you open ISA and then whatever contribution you make, then they now use that money to invest in Sharia compliance investment like stocks and the likes for you. You can always go there to see what your money is invested in, and then you can always check some of those things online as well to do your own verification as to the underlying investment, which they've mentioned in your report that your fund is invested in, whether it's halal or not. Some of the conventional investment entities like I think Hargrave Lisdan or AJ Bell, they do have like some Sharia, some specific fund like Sharia compliance fund where if you should invest with them, then you can specifically mention that you want your fund to be invested in this type of fund or stocks, Sharia compliance stocks, and then they keep your fund in that kind of situation. Again, for those type, you would always have like your underlying statement as to this is what your fund is invested in. So it's not really like a black box not that you give the money and then tell them you want Sharia compliance. No, it doesn't work that way. You tell them, you would always have your statement where you can, see the underlying items in which your investment is done with. Oftentimes on a personal level, I have some of these accounts, and then what I do is for some of the investment, I see the underlying stuff which they invested in. For some of them, you can actually do them on your own as well. So on a personal note, I just look at those ones, okay, and then do my bit of research and invest in them personally. Because when they invest, they sort of take commission as well. So which is fine because they're providing you a service for what they're doing. But you could also do that on a separate note as well. I think the same thing is for the lifetime ISA, but I think for the lifetime ISA, it's rare to be able to see the savings one without interest, but you could do the stocks one where you say you would invest your entire maybe 4K plus 1K bonus in shares, but you will be the one to decide what shares you want to invest in. So in that case, you would specify, I want to invest in these shares and this one because it's halal, and then I don't want the other one. I don't know if that answers your question, sir.
So one of the questions that was asked then is, what's the full meaning of LISA or ISA?
Lifetime. LISA is lifetime ISA. ISA is individual savings account.
Now, alhamdulillah, I don't think there are any questions on YouTube. No one is raising their hands here as well. And I can't see any further questions on the chat area. So we'll say Jazakumullahu khairan to our experts that for that practical ways of saving money. Okay. Yeah, you could raise your hand. You can go ahead then, Mariam. Mariam, if you go first. Can we unmute Mariam, please? Technical crew, are you there? Mariam, let me find her. Okay, I'm trying to unmute you. Sorry. Is it Mariam? Okay, Mariam. Okay, you can unmute now. Mariam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
To that beautiful lecture. But my own question is on real estate, especially on the yielders. Please, I would like to know, is this an investment in UK or in Nigeria that you're talking about, because I'm interested and I would like you to shed more light on that and I can go about it, please.
Okay, I think most of what I've mentioned is UK centric, like the UDAS, for example. However, I mean, I know there are probably a couple of investment schemes in Nigeria as well, where you are able to invest in properties outside Nigeria, let's say like in Dubai, for example. And I think there is one of the investment apps in Nigeria. I don't know if it's called Rise Invest or Rise Vest or thereabout, where they also have some bit of real estate investment where you invest with them and then they invest the money in real estate companies. I think they invest the money in real estate in the US, where they buy some houses and then you get returns based on the rental income and then the other acquisition on that. But obviously you might do a bit of research as well as to what they are doing. But I know there are probably one or two in Nigeria as well, where you can invest maybe in Naira, or you invest with dollar, like you buy dollar, invest, and then they invest the money on your behalf. But I think the yield, as I mentioned, it's in the UK. I don't know if that answers your question, please.
No, Jazakumullah khairan. Obviously, I think the caveat here is that to make your own personal research before you go into anything. I'm sure that Brother Idris would not take responsibility for anything that happens when you make your investment. He's only just giving us some of the tips that we could do to invest. When you want to invest, you still have that personal responsibility to check the allowability, if you allow me to use that word, of that investment and the profitability of it as well. Very, very important. There's a question here about, is this session recorded? Yes. If you go into our YouTube afterwards, inshallah, the session should be available on YouTube. If I ask Dr. Mariam, with Dr. Fatima, to unmute yourself and ask a question, and that will be the last question, I believe, for today. Now, unmute yourself now, Dr. Fatima.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. For that beautiful and enlightening lecture. My question is about the LISA. You mentioned that we can use the savings for our first house in the UK, or the money can be gotten after you've reached the age of retirement. Regarding buying the first house in UK, you know, there are controversies regarding buying mortgages, Islamic mortgage, and I think there are some other alternatives also regarding how to buy houses in the UK. The LISA, will it be used for all these alternate method of acquiring houses? Can it be used for non-interest based mortgages? Like, for example, if I want to go for these all these share ownership, or all those without the real conventional mortgage, will I still be able to use that LISA towards that?
No.
That's the question.
So my understanding is you can only use the LISA for one, the conventional mortgage, and on the Islamic fund, you can only use the LISA for what is recognized by the government as, in quotes, Islamic mortgage, and that is a product known as home purchase plan, which is offered by some banks in the UK like Gatehouse, Awayan, and the likes. So with the home purchase plan, it's contracted under the Islamic transaction known as a diminishing musharaka contract, where there's a bit of a partnership between you and the bank to buy the house. And then there is also the lease agreement between you and the bank as well to rent the house from the government and pay them, from the bank, and then pay them their own rent on their share of the ownership. So you can use the lifetime ISA for the Islamic mortgage, if I put it that way, which is the home purchase plan. So you can use it for it. However, for some of these new schemes, like the shared ownership bit, or like where like likes of ALO, Strides, and likes where some bit of, you buy and likes, as the last time I checked, because I did some bit of research quite recently, they have not yet gotten to that stage where you can use your LISA to buy with them. Another caveat that I need to mention is the moment you you buy with some of these scheme as well. Maybe as part ownership, you use your first-time buyer stamp duty exemption. So generally, if you're probably buying through the home purchase plan, or for those buying through conventional mortgage, you would there's a sort of like an exemption where you don't have to pay stamp duty up to a certain value of the house. But with any of these sort of alternative options, you should also take note that once you use them, and then you probably want to go into properly buying a house later on, you would lose your first time exemption as well. But in simple term, you can use the lifetime ISA for your for an Islamic mortgage under an home purchase plan with some of the banks in the UK. If that answers your questions, man.
No, Jazakumullah khairan. Now that will be the end of today's session, inshallah. So watch out for if you're not part of our WhatsApp group, join our WhatsApp group. We would have more interesting and more practical sessions aside our spiritual sessions that we have on a fortnightly basis. So next session, next usrah would be at the camp. As we know, our August camp would be in 2 weeks' time. It starts on the 4th of our summer camp on the 4th of August, all the way till the 7th, I believe, of August, inshallah. So the registration is closed. If you've not registered, please do not turn up. We will turn you back, unfortunately, because we are fully booked. We are overbooked. In fact, we've booked 2 extra hotels for this year's summer conference. So we are looking forward to that. A lot of soul-inspiring practical sessions that we're going to be going through in that session. We're still soliciting for funds to support and to make this a reality. So if you want to get reward from this, please donate generously. I would ask the technical crew to put on the link to donate generously to support the summer conference, and you get a part of the reward as well. So inshallah, so the fortnightly usrah for next session, it would be at the camp, so there won't be anyone online. It will be for those people who come to the camp. And then after that would be 2 weeks after that, inshallah. But further information will be sent to us for those who will not be at the camp, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to preserve our life and to accept this from us as act of worship. Let us save some money, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our risk, our wealth, and make this a source of good for us. So we say Jazakumullah khairan again to our expert, Mr. Idris Ayinde. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and his family. So our account details, as you can see on the screen, to support us in all our activities, and there's a link on the chat area as well for the summer conference specifically, so you can donate through that link as well. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the summer conference a success. Please check your emails. If you are registered, a lot of information have been sent to your emails. Go to your emails and make sure you are full aware of what to expect at the camp. And some of those things that will help facilitate your traveling down to the camp as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from us as act of worship. If there are no more comments, which I don't think I'm going to entertain anyways, let me just make sure there isn't anything I'm missing before. So the account details is on there. The launch good link is there as well. So yeah, we end it here. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. I'll see you again in 4 weeks. For those of you who are not coming to the camp. For those of you coming to the camp, you'll see more of me at the camp, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.